Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Sean Evans. For First We Feast, this is Hot Ones, the show with hot questions and even hotter wings. Today I'm joined by Jake Barnes, an American expatriate, now living in Paris. Jake, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Sean.
Tell me, Jake, how are you with spicy foods?
I've not had much experience with it besides the food in Braganza. They have spicy food there.
Well, we can broaden your experiences today as we take on the Hot Wings Gauntlet. Now, Jake, I know you are somewhat of an aficionado when it comes to bullfighting. Can you tell me about some of your favorite moments from the Fiesta de Pamplona?
When the matador works entirely in the terrain of the bull, that is great bullfighting. Like Romero and Belmonte before the war, matadors like Marcial are the cause of the modern decadent era of bullfighting. They only pretend to cross into the terrain of the bull.
You know, I've noticed the same thing while watching bullfights in my own experiences. Although I haven't had the chance to see Romero myself, it must be amazing to see.
He was the best.
So, Jake, I've heard a lot of rumors about you and Robert Cohen potentially having some beef. Can you expound on that at all, or say if you plan on eventually squashing the beef once and for all?
Robert Cohen is a pitiful man. I dislike his personality, although I have no real feud with him. Precisely because I know he is a sad man, he does not bother me, only sometimes. His wife, Frances, has irritating qualities. Her attachment to Cohen was something I always thought made him pitiful. I haven't seen Cohen in many years. He sent me letters, although they were brief and I never responded.
I've spent a lot of time in the Azores off the coast of Portugal, and as you know, they are quite fond of their bullfighting as well. I was curious if you have seen bullfights in Spain, and if not, have you noticed any differences among the bullfights from varying countries?
Well, the bullfights of Portugal are quite different from those of Spain. Nowhere else in the world is there a place like Spain. In Spain, things are complicated. In Spain, you might have the greatest bullfighter anyone had ever seen, and the masses would throw him out, all because of one simple gesture. In Portugal, things are not like that. This wing is spicy.
Yeah, this is when people start to feel it a little bit. While on the topic of Spain, are there any locations there that you consider a must-see while visiting or touring?
I never much liked San Sebastian. It is said that people forget themselves and make mistakes in that city. And the Fiesta of Pamplona makes you feel as though you were a horse in a carousel, as though you were spinning round and around and around and around. And it seemed like great fun until you realized that you stopped, that you really hadn't gone anywhere at all. The real beauty is in the countryside, in Berget. There's great fishing there.
I know you spent a lot of time with your good friend Bill. Can you tell us a little bit of like a origin story about your bond?
Bill was the best man I ever knew. I never told him, or anybody that, but it's true. We met after the war. He had been in the 80th Regiment. I had been in the 46th. We both suffered wounds in the war, but Bill's wound never seemed to bother him. You know, I admire that about him. He comforted me, not in a traditional way, but in his own unique way. He always told me the truth. If someone else were there to tell me the truth as he did, I would punch him. But with Bill, it was different. He was very special to me in that way.
alluded a little bit to your love of fishing. But I want to know more about why fishing captivates you in this way. Is it the tranquility of the water? The satisfaction of success? You just let me know, get me into the head of Jake when it comes to fishing.
I don't really enjoy fishing. See, fishing is just an excuse for me to sit outside and be in nature. You know, fishing really depends on who you're with. For example, I would never fish with Robert Cohn, but I would fish with Bill. I prefer to be outside, sitting, but merely tossing my rod into the water is meaningless.
Outside of your time fishing, you spend a lot of time in your job.
That's true.
You know, Jake, I've read some compiled articles from the beginnings of your time working in the newspaper industry, but I'm just curious what keeps you going and what keeps you so motivated to work as hard as you do.
I began working in the industry when I was a teenager. In the town where I grew up, I had a job in a newspaper factory there, and you know, the work was hard and grueling. I met a man there. We became quite close friends. He was the manager of the factory. Many years later, I was out of work, and he introduced me to a friend who owned a newspaper. I moved to France, and I've worked there ever since. You know, I'm not motivated to keep working, but I simply have work and I do it.
Do you ever think about moving back to America?
No, I like it in France. It is a simple country.
Well, Jake, we've reached the 8th wing.
What did you say the name of this one was?
Well, Jake, it's called the bomb. Oh, there, be careful there, Jake. Try not to touch your eyes. Alright, Jake, for this wing, we're gonna play a game where I present you two things and you tell me which is better. The game is called Which is Better. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready.
Which country has better restaurants, Spain or France?
Well, the quality of food and drink is invariable between both. But servers in France, well, they'll become your friend if you just throw your money away at them. In Spain, you can never tell if a waiter will treat you nicely or treat you poorly. I prefer France.
Alright, next question. Who do you think is a better writer, Robert Cohen or Bill Gordon?
Much like his pathetic personality, Cohen's writing is unconfident. And it's become suddenly too confident when he decides. Bill will never be a great writer, but he's a good writer. I cannot say the same for him.
Well, Jake, we've talked a lot about your time in Adventures in the Fiesta and your love for fishing, but I want to hear more about your plans for the future. Is there anything more Jake Barnes has been dying to do? Any last items on the bucket list to check off?
I do not know with certainty where I'll be in 10 years, but I hope perhaps to see the Amazon rainforest. Maybe I'll see South America. I've heard the weather's very nice there. I don't know. I feel tied to Brett. In all honesty, she's blinded me. She's just. I feel like I'm a fish. I'm caught in her web, in her trawler, like a fishing trawler. You know, as if I'm a fish and she. I just feel like I have to follow her everywhere, and whatever she does, I'll do. Whatever she says, I'll say. And she's like this planet. And she grabs these men in her orbit, and they circle around her, and they sort of go into her, and she just catches them, and they can't get out. I don't know what to do. She's captivated.
Well, Jake, we made it to the last dab. How are you feeling?
Brett used to ask me that.
Well, Jake, it sounds like she was very important to you.
Important? She wasn't important to me. She meant nothing to me. How could she run after those men? Cone? Romero? Mike? Those men were nothing. Why didn't she love me?
Well, all that sounds very sad, Jake. But here we have a little tradition where we put a little extra hot sauce on the last wing. Well, seems like that's all from Jake Barnes. Jake, you have this camera, and this camera. Please, tell the people what you have going on in your life right now.